It's a bit late, so try to be a bit shorter than my colleagues. And I'll probably also reiterate on a bunch of things that already came up, but based on my experience. So first things first, shameless plug. A bit about me before this. So I was part of the founding team at a bunch of different startups. I was at Conduit for 7 years. From the very beginning when we were a bunch of people in one small room up to 250 employees when I left about 3 years ago. Today, I think there are about 400, 500 employees I don't even know anymore. I also co-founded Intermatch, one of the leading dating sites. Co-founded Igloo, a mobile app in a startup. We did a bunch of different things there. And my latest startup that I'm putting all my blood, sweat, and tears into is TalkSparks. Asaf is my co-founder here. You can bug us later on if you're interested in hearing more. But the gist of it is that we're creating a communities network. It's based on interest. Basically, we have a community for any interest that you could possibly think of. 40 million interests already in our system. So whether it's a TV show you're interested in, you just saw something, you want to talk to other people interested in the same thing, you're a sports fan of a sports team, or you want to meet with other entrepreneurs or marketers, whatever that might be, you can go to our site and connect a community of people interested in the same things that you're passionate about. We started really recently. I mean, it's still kind of a closed system, but we have set up a code where you guys can sign up and be part of this. So if you want to go to talksparks.com and sign up with that access code, you'll be automatically entered into the system. So when I was at Conduit, the company started growing, and obviously, like you all know, nobody's interested in selling to the Israelis. It's not really a market, and you probably already also got to the conclusion that the U.S. is where you want to be. If you can succeed in selling to the Americans, you could probably, it's a great predictor of whether you can do it in other places in the world. If you can succeed in selling in Israel, it probably doesn't mean that much. So we were growing our presence there, and I found myself traveling quite often, and I eventually even got an apartment in San Francisco. And it really is, I think the main point of what I'm trying to say today, overall this entire thing, is that there is no substance to actually physically being there. There are a bunch of examples of Israeli companies that had American counterparts. YouTube and Meta Cafe is a good example. Food Spotting and Feed Me. There are a bunch of them where the American company just basically crushed the Israeli company that may have a better product, may have been there first, whatever. It just doesn't. It just doesn't work. And the reason for that is that because your market is in the U.S., you need to be where your market is. You need to be where your customers are. You need to talk to them. You need to culturally connect to who they are, and really understand what gets them ticking, what their needs are. And that's not something you can do over email or from afar. You really need to be there. And in addition, you also be able to raise from well-connected investors. I don't want to say better investors, but they probably are better. And get media coverage, all just based on the fact that you're there and you're kind of blending in with the natives. So when I was at Conduit, at first I was traveling. I was here, and I was like, okay, I could go there once a month. That's fine, not a big deal. And I kept going to all these different meetups. And at one of the meetups, I met Tal, who's an Israeli entrepreneur who relocated to the Valley. And we were talking about traveling and being in Israel. And he told me this thing. He said it's an unfair advantage, just of having him there physically, and me, I was like going back and forth. It was an unfair advantage because of like all the things that happened, just that like not really planned. I call it accelerated serendipity. You're there, you meet somebody, you start talking, you hear about the good opportunity for partnership, or he'll introduce you to somebody. There really is, especially in Silicon Valley, a sense of camaraderie, and people are willing to help you if you talk about your startup, and there's kind of a really openness to connecting and to helping. And it really is an unfair advantage of just being an Israeli there versus being an Israeli here who's traveling back and forth. I have two stories about this actually. So one of them, I was playing Werewolf at some event. It's a game if you want. I can talk to you about it later. And I just happened to, one of the guys playing was a guy from DFJ, one of the largest VC firms. And you know, it's a casual kind of event. We were talking, blah blah blah. And 2 days later, I was at DFJ's, and I was, you know, already pitching my startup. I could have cold emailed this guy, or I could have contacted somebody who knew him, and maybe eventually set up a meeting. But it would have been probably 2 months later, and much kind of a colder way to get things done. And here it was very natural, very spontaneous. Another thing. I kept meeting Robert Scoble. I assume most of you know him. He's a big, probably the biggest blogger, a very influential person online. And I kept meeting him at these different events, different meetups, just kind of casually chit-chatting. And one of the times I met him, I was like, all right, you know, I'm working on the startup. Let's talk. I want to show you what we're working on. He was, sure, no problem. And then 2 days later, I was in his house in Half Moon Bay, and just, you know, focused 100% on what I was trying to sell him. If you now try to email Robert Scoble, you could try it now, you will not get a reply. You'll get this automated response saying, I'm very busy, sorry, everybody wants to talk to me, and this has been going on for years. He will not reply to you. He's so swamped. Every single startup out there wants to talk to him. And I was sitting in his house with his wife and kids just after 2 days of being there. So it really is an unfair advantage of just being there and being present. The big question that I've seen is that who should go? I mean, I've seen Israeli companies say, all right, we're here, we'll hire an American BD person, we'll send him out there, he's local, right, he's American, he'll do what we want him to do. It'll be a bit expensive, but it's fine, right? From what I've seen, this never works. The person who should go is you, the founder, the entrepreneur. We heard Zohar is moving hopefully soon. You have to be there. You're the one who knows your business in and out. You know everything about it, from the technical stuff to your vision, to your plans, to what you're willing to do, what you want to do, what you want to achieve from a specific person you're talking to. You can talk to VCs. You can talk to the media. You can go to meetups and sell. You can set up partnerships and BD meetings. I really believe that this is irreplaceable. It has to be one of the core founding team, and not somebody you can just hire and say, run our U.S. office from afar. It really has to be somebody who can run the gamut of everything that has to do with the business, and just push it forward. So kind of to sum it up, really the three things is, first of all, it's presence. You have to be there. You, the entrepreneur, there's no replacement. You cannot send somebody. You cannot, from my experience, you cannot do it from here. And even once a month I did it. It does not have the same impact. It is much different. You will, if you do this, you will find yourself there, and then you have to come back here because your team is here. And the travel sucks, especially if you're in Silicon Valley. Not fun, and the time difference is horrible. But it's much better than just leaving it up to chance that maybe you'll get press coverage and maybe you'll be able to set up a meeting with Scoble or whatever that might be. Personal connections, very important. You probably all know this, but people are much more willing to do business with people they've met face to face. An interesting story I have here. I was working on a product a couple of years ago, and we had a competitor in the valley, a Y Combinator, a graduate, doing the exact same thing, high profile. TechCrunch was covering them all the time. And one day we wake up in the morning and we hear these guys close shop. Out of the blue, they seemed successful. This is what we were doing. It seemed, okay, what's going on here? And I really, like the first thing I said was, I got to talk to the entrepreneur. I got to understand what's going on here. So I kind of looked him up, and I saw that some guy that I met at a meetup a year or two prior to that, is connected to him. I saw on Facebook they were kind of chatting, so I immediately called this guy. I already knew him, so it was very easy to, I was like, hey, I see you know so-and-so, the CEO of this company. Could you connect me? And it was very easy. Like within 5 hours, we were on the phone. I spoke to the entrepreneur. He told me what was going on, why they were doing this. He was very open because they already decided to pivot and close what they were doing, so it was very easy for him to open up. And that's something that would have never happened if I had not known this personal connection, and I didn't even know him specifically. I just knew somebody who was close to him. And the final thing is persistence, and it's really, I experience this a lot at meetups in Silicon Valley, where I just go and go and go, and you start seeing familiar faces, and they start seeing you, and they start hearing about your company, and media people will be there, and they start hearing again and again. You're branding basically yourself and your company, so that you are the face behind your company. They start knowing you. You become familiar with them. They become familiar with you. And great things come out of this. It's partnerships, actual deals, press coverage, investments, pretty much everything comes from just being there and being persistent and connecting to people. That's about it. I'd be happy to hear any questions if you have any. Yeah. Yes. The first thing I did was actually, well, I didn't relocate immediately. I decided I need to be there, and I started going out. At first it was once every couple months, then it was once a month, and then it became 2 weeks a month, and I got an apartment and stayed there for a few months at a time. So while I was kind of traveling occasionally, I would be really focused on, all right, I have 2 weeks here, what am I going to do? And I did a lot of work on meetup.com. Crazy. It's not human probably what I did. I'd go to a meetup. I'd go to 2 meetups every day, every single day, maybe except for Saturday. 2 meetups a day. You eat a lot of pizza. Not healthy, but that's part of the game. And it gets tiring. But that was like the first way. And then from that, you start meeting people. And you start talking, and they get to know you. And from that, good things happen. You hear about other meetups, and you have more pizza, and you meet more people, and that kind of gets the ball rolling. What's that? Pizza. Okay, I'll add that. Maybe, yeah. Pizza for entrepreneurs is falafel. Yeah. There's Owen's hummus if you want. Any other questions, or we can all go home? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Hopefully, some of you are going to be on the 11 finalists. So we'll see everybody hopefully by May 31st, which is the last day for applying. Anybody is going to apply? Okay, so we have, great. Good, I'm here in Israel, so if there are any questions and stuff like that. Yes, it is, but it's not marketed on a global level. But I mean, the internet is there, so people hear about it. Okay. Most of the applications are for phone countries: the United States, Canada, India with 1 billion people. Number 4 is Israel. Okay.